How's it going, everyone? I'm Dono and this is How to Happy. In this video, we're going to talk about better communication by making less assumptions. A situation like this might seem familiar to you. So you're talking to someone that you've known for a few months, and somehow in the conversation it comes up, they say something along the lines of, "Oh wow, when we first met, I thought you really didn't like me." And you're blown away, so you ask them, "Why? What happened? What did I do?" And they say, "Oh, well, you never invited me to lunch and you never said hi in the mornings. I don't know, I just figured you didn't like me." And then you're floored even more because you realize you thought they didn't like you for some of the exact same reasons. So what is going on here? How do situations like this happen? Most of the time, it's because we are making assumptions with only a little bit of information. So when you only have a little bit of information, your brain starts to fill in the rest of the gaps, right? "Oh, so-and-so didn't say hello to me this morning. That must be because they don't like me." These kinds of assumptions may or may not be true, but it is the best way for us to feel comfortable because we can fill in the rest of the story and understand what's going on. When you've only had a handful of interactions with someone, you only have a few pieces of information. So every piece of information is more significant than it normally would be, and then you focus on it a little bit more and craft a storyline around it. That storyline is built out of what we expect other people to do, right? We all have our own internal set of filters and expectations about how other people act. So we see something like not saying hi, and in our filter, we basically think, "Oh, if you don't say hi to someone in the morning, you don't like them." But that person has their own filters to look through the world with as well. So maybe on their end of things, they don't say hi in the morning because that's not something that you do to be friendly. You know, if you make eye contact, then you have acknowledged that the other person is there. And through their set of rules, that's acceptable for what happens in the morning. They're just doing what they think is right based on their set of expectations and norms, and you're doing the same thing. But there's this little disconnect, and then we start filling in the blanks to create a story around why they're acting in a certain way. Everyone, most of the time, does what they think is right. So we just keep continuing these actions and interpreting them through our filters. Some of you might be thinking, well, most people should be calibrated pretty much the same on most social concerns. That might be true for some of the big stuff, but even little small variations can make a huge difference in outcomes and cause some problems. Let me give you an example. So you might smile at someone thinking that you're being warm and friendly, but the way that they see your smile is a little bit different than what they expected, and they interpret it as sarcastic, right? This is just a very small variation, but it could cause some serious problems. When these actions go through each person's filter and they don't quite match up, that can cause problems because the perception doesn't match the intent at all. All right, so assuming everyone has different filters, what are we supposed to do to kind of combat that, right? We have to have some set of rules and some idea of how other people are going to act. Otherwise, it's just complete anarchy and we can't really process anything. So let's go over a few tools that you can try to use to understand people a little bit better and not fill in those stories with big assumptions. First thing you might want to try is to just brainstorm some ideas about what their intentions are instead of going with your first reaction. Ask yourself the question, what would I have to be thinking or feeling in order to act in the same way? As well as how might they be interpreting the world in ways that are a little different than I am? So here's an example. If I was to storm out of a meeting, I think the only scenario where I'd storm out of a meeting was if I had a lot of other stress going on and a lot of other problems. Now, there could potentially be other circumstances where someone said something that really offended me or something along those lines. But I think for me, a lot of it would just be if I had other stuff going on and I hit a breaking point for some reason. So a comment that's relatively small and wouldn't have bothered me would cause me to blow up. When I brainstorm that alternative idea, maybe somebody storming out of a meeting isn't doing it because they're throwing a fit. Maybe they just have so much going on that something smaller kind of set them off and they know that they needed space. That's what happens when you try to brainstorm a couple other reasons. You get some more explanations. If you don't have enough information to make a reasonable guess, it's going to be a lot easier on you to give people the benefit of the doubt. So the next time you get cut off in traffic, if you craft a narrative around, wow, they cut me off because they're a jerk, that's just going to infuriate you. It's a little bit easier to think, okay, maybe I was in their blind spot and they made a mistake and didn't happen to see me, right? Either of those interpretations you get to slot in. So for your own, emotional stability, it's probably better to slot in the one that's more digestible. The other part of it is if you use that interpretation, it's going to be easier for you to relate to, right? You may not be the type of person that intentionally cuts people off, but you've probably made a mistake before and accidentally cut someone off. It's not just a thought exercise in positive thinking, it's a way of framing your experiences that gives you more emotional control and helps you stay a little less stressed out. Again, everyone is pretty much doing what they think is right, so it's worthwhile to take a few seconds to think about why they're taking that action. Another thing you can try, which should seem really straightforward, is to just get more information. Now, I understand that this isn't always possible in every circumstance, but if we go back to our first example, for the person that walks by in the morning and doesn't say hi, why don't you just ask them what's going on? Instead of just making up a narrative and saying, oh, they don't like me because they don't say hi, get some more information from them themselves. You'll be surprised how often you find discrepancies between what's happening and your interpretation if you don't have all the information. Now, of course, if you're going to ask someone about their intentions and their actions, you need to do so tactfully. So don't attack people's character. Don't say stuff like, why do you come in the morning and you're always so rude and never say hi to me? That's going to result in more problems, but approach it from a place of really wanting to understand and you'll have a better outcome. So ask something more like, hey, I noticed you don't say hi in the mornings. For me, that's something that people usually do. I'm curious why you don't do that. No judgment, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from or what you're doing. Communicating curiosity instead of a form of judgment is going to give people a lot more space to open up and talk about what they're doing and feeling. You really honestly have to try to understand them though, otherwise people pick up on these subtle vibes and they'll know that you have some kind of judgment, right? You really need to go at the core and think, okay, I just want to understand why they're not doing this. Their filters are probably different than yours, right? Keep that in mind. So you got to try to figure out what filters they're looking through the world at and what rules they use, and then use that baseline of understanding to open a dialogue. Now, I also know that not every miscommunication or assumption is going to be this drastic, but taking care of some of the smaller things can help build the relationship so they don't evolve into really big drastic things, right? This not saying hi in the morning might start as one small thought and then build up and build up and build up. And then, a few months later, you're like, wow, this person hates me. They've never done a single nice thing, yada, yada, yada. So the earlier that you can tackle some of these miscommunications or assumptions, the better. By limiting the assumptions we make, or at least crafting, alternatives and trying to pick the best one, we give ourselves a lot more control emotionally, as well as it allows us to more accurately see the truth, right? When we can see different options compared against each other, or if we just go get the information, we have a much better chance of understanding the situation and not having it spiral out of control. A lot of times when we put our own narratives into these events, then they tend to have a negative bias, and then before long they snowball and become more and more negative. The goal of these tools and ideas are to help you get closer to a realistic perspective. So hopefully that helps. If you have any tools that you use to not make assumptions, it'd be awesome to hear. Feel free to put them down in the comments. Let's move on to the exercise. So the exercise for this video is think of an action someone did recently that you didn't understand. Tactfully ask them what their thoughts and motivations were behind the action. Again, remember, you need to genuinely seek to understand them better, and then take note of anything that you find surprising. That's all I've got for this video. As always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, feel free to put them down in the box below, and I will see you next time. You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.